Me and Alex started painting together. And this summer we painted a wall. I think it was 80 by 25 feet. And we painted it in like 2 days. And then someone asked us like, oh, that must have been a lot of work. Like, aren't you guys tired? We were just like, I don't think I'd even sweat or spent any energy. I'm like, if anything, I spent more time laughing and having fun. If you can tap into that kind of approach, then it's not hard work anymore. Yeah. For me, I don't think art should be like hard work in that sense where you're like drained and like beaten up. Yeah. When people like overwork themselves, I'm like, then that almost kind of takes away from the art piece.
Welcome to the Calgary Sessions. This is episode number 111. I'm your host, Jeff Humphreys. Before we get into today's show, I just want to do like a quick ask. If you're digging the show, if you like this one, we'd love it if you share it, do something with it, subscribe to it, just anything to help us get more attention around it. Without further ado, name and who you are.
Thank you for having me. My name is Rhys Douglas Farrell, and I'm an artist and muralist. Born and raised in Calgary, Alberta, and I'm still here. I have my studio here, and basically just been painting and traveling and doing public art since I finished ACAD.
Amazing. This is, so I don't know if you catch my spiel every once in a while, but I know like nothing about the guests when they show up. Mm-hmm. The only thing I know is like for you specifically is how cool your art is. That's the thing that caught my eye, but I didn't know you're born and raised here. Like, so it's cool to find these things out on the fly because it just kind of takes the conversations in ways I had no idea.
Yeah, so I was born here. I went to high school, and then my art teacher basically just suggested that I go to ACAD, which is now called AU Arts, and I kind of just had like the best time there. And then I was there for 5 years instead of 4.
Yep, because it was so good. You're having fun, or are you being lazy?
I think a couple of courses are challenging, but and then after that it just everything kind of naturally worked its way to it where I've gotten to today.
ACAD's a special place, isn't it? There's so many.
Yeah, it is. It's a very different it's a very different post-secondary atmosphere than I would suppose other ones. I didn't go to any other ones. So.
Mm-hmm. But so many talented, creative people running around there. Like all sorts.
And all the different departments and the design side, the fine arts side. Yeah. And there's just so many names that like, the more people you look up, there's so many successful people that come out of that school. So it's a great place to go and learn. What do
you think it is? Like, why do you think it cranks out so many talented people?
I don't know, for ACAD, for me, I really liked the community of people, and then the professors were really great. And then, I don't know, that's such a great question, because there's nothing like over the top fancy, or like there's no crazy landmarks or things at ACAD where it's like, ooh, I seen this, now it's better. Mm-hmm. But I think it's just the group of people and kind of the way they organize the courses, and I guess it's a little bit different for everyone because I have heard mixed opinions, but that's with everything. Yeah. But I think it's just a good school because a lot of cool people end up going there, so it builds a cool community.
Do you think it's do you feel like you're getting pushed by the people around you? You know, when you're looking around, you see these super talented people. Does it push you to keep being creative, to do things differently, to just like push the boundaries with your own skill set?
Yeah, I think especially once you get into like 3rd and 4th year, you get your own kind of like studio space, but they're more like a big room divided into spaces. So you're not really like in your own room. So you kind of get to see what everyone else is working on and like kind of seeing their progress and their ideas. And not so much like in a competitive way, but in a way that's like motivating. Yeah. Like you'll see one person that's just like absolutely Like you don't even understand how they're working and how good they are. So you're like, yeah, I should probably spend some more time in the studio.
Yeah, it's almost like inspiring. It's like a check and a balance to like keep you accountable to yourself. Like when you know there's some amazing characters doing crazy work.
Yeah, and if you're sitting across the hallway from them, it's like, well, if I'm here and they're here, you should step it up a little bit.
So have you seen a couple of these? You've seen a couple of guests on this? Have you watched the show?
Yes, I have. Yeah.
So you kind of know what's about to go down. So yeah, I'd love to hear your story. So take it back as far as you want to go. You know, like how you grew up, where you grew up. You know, who inspired you around. Who was around you at a young age that inspired you, and then we'll just kind of get on a path to the madness that you're doing right now.
Okay. Well, as I was a kid, I guess I was always like kind of creative, like always drawing and like kind of making crafts or stuff. But my grandma on my dad's side, we used to always go to her. She kind of lived on like a cottage kind of thing outside of town. So in the summers, they'd usually send us off there. So the parents had some time. But my grandma was like, she was like knitting, woodworking, drawing. She like made ceramics, like she did kind of like a little bit of everything. So whenever like we didn't want to do something, we were like, okay, well, we'd have to do what she's doing. And I think that's when I really got into drawing, because she had all kinds of old like comic books and magazines, and like back when there was more like tactile objects everywhere. And then as I got to school, like junior high, like elementary and junior high, like I never really paid attention. I was always just drawing on paper. And like
anything, or was there? Did you have like themes throughout your youth? You know, like were you drawing a certain style or basing it on your TV shows or whatever? Like
yeah, so I was kind of always drawing like the current themes of what like our age group was doing. Like I remember drawing Pokemon for like years. Then I was drawing like Dragonball Z. Then I started drawing like kind of like different video game characters. And then my dad was always into like hot rods and cars. So I kind of got into drawing cars and stuff.
Like traditional drawings, or was it like I mean, when I say that, sorry, I mean like traditional lines, or were you kind of like flaring out tires and doing?
I would say they were more like, it was more like I'd print off images and try and draw them. Yep. And then I would color them in. But like, for me, I guess like the main thing was just like the outlines of the drawings. And I was always trying to make everything like look identical, or like see if I could draw that image. But then I was never like a super big car guy. So like, I think that was just kind of something that was like material that was available to draw. Because then once I got to high school, and then because I always took art courses, obviously, because I was interested in it.
Yeah. Were you like just not interested in the other, like school in general? Was it just a pain in the ass until you got to art class?
Well, it was weird because like I was good at school, like math and social. I was terrible at English actually, but I just could like not focus like reading the textbook. Like I'd be drawing a picture and I could focus better while drawing. But then like the teachers would always think you're not paying attention, take the drawing, or like
all of it.
then
you were that kid.
Then it just turns into kid. I'm like, okay, I'm doing nothing then. And then yeah, then I got to high school, and in high school everyone kind of gets into like different music, and like a lot of my friends are getting into graffiti. And I liked the aesthetic of graffiti, and like I thought it was cool, but I never really turned into a graffiti kid. Like I didn't really want to go running around at nighttime, and like it just like didn't all the qualities of that artist weren't my interests. So I still was drawing like letters and like kind of like music stuff. But then in art school, in high school, they just started showing us a lot of books. And then once I seen abstract art in art history, especially like pop art and like art from like the 80s and the 70s, and then like op art, like the stuff I'm making like from the 60s, that's kind of when I was like, that was like an aesthetic that I kind of like fell in love with, and I was like, I think this is something that I'm like more passionate about. So then I got really into drawing like geometric shapes and color relationships. And
Do you think that, all the years as you're kind of like, chasing themes and just kind of, you get inspired to go down this path, like, do you think that's just part of it? Like, do you think you just have to try all these different things, and then the minute you get exposed to something like those books, right away that this is what I'm looking for. This is the path I want to go investigate.
I think there's something that like there's some kind of like buzzer or something, because even when I was at ACAD, I was researching, like, I was really into colors. I wasn't really like too deep on patterns and like all like the super crazy line work and stuff yet. But I made this one painting, and it was just like an experiment. And it was just like a yellow painting that repeated in different shades of yellow. And this one professor, I'd had him before, but he wasn't teaching me at the time. He just came to my desk and he's like, what is this? And he's like a really smart kind of like pretentious guy. And I was like, it's a painting. And he's like, well, yeah, I know that, but do you know what you painted? And I was like, a yellow painting? And then he was like, he told me this scientist to look up. And it was basically this scientist that like discovered how certain colors placed together make illusionary gradients because of their hues and values, and basically like the specs of those colors. So like I looked up that guy, and then I kind of got like, I was like really interested in it, because it was like he was originally just a scientist. He wasn't an artist, but he figured out that color. He figured out that color principle because he was working in a factory of making tactiles. So they're having issues putting certain colors together, because in the blankets or whatever they're making, some of them would look weird, and the clients would be like, this looks strange. So that was one kind of thing that got me like really into it, because then it turned art and science into like a collaboration,
which is fascinating.
Yeah. So then I was like, okay, I'm gonna dig more into this, and that was my last year of ACAD when I was writing my grad paper.
That's when you figured this out?
Yeah, and so that was like right at the beginning of the year. So then he kind of started feeding me all these other artists and like scientists, and then showing me like works that like, oh, you should, like, if you just made a painting like this, you should look at this guy's work, because it's like almost the exact same, but this was 1971. So then you're like learning the history and learning the new info at the same time. So then it kind of just gives you like the full circle of knowledge. And yeah, since graduating, that's when I kind of like stuck to this to op art. And then
it's crazy. Do you think it's when you see the history behind it, and and the science behind it, does it give you more confidence that you're on something? There's a reason that it's speaking to you. Like, it's not random. There's actually some science behind it to actually inspire you. Does it like give you confidence knowing that this path that you're thinking about actually makes sense? It's not super random.
Yeah, totally. So the fact that op art uses like colors and lines and like principles and theories, and it combines them to make a product. There's also this other theory that I studied called Gestalt theory, and that's basically what it is. And Gestalt theory, like the premise of it is the sum of the individual parts is greater. No, the sum of the parts is greater than the individual. So like when you have all these certain things, they don't do anything, but when you put them all together, something's made that is only created because of all of those things. And op art is really like that, because if I have like a 4-color painting and doing like some magical thing to your eyes. If you take away the red from the painting, then that effect is gone. So I almost looked at it as like they're almost like equations or like experiments. So for me, that's what really fascinated me in that work, because it turned artwork into like almost into like if you were to like cook a dish, or like you need all the components for it to become the final masterpiece. And that's what got me really like kind of hooked on it.
When you were a youngster, like, when you were kind of moving through space, like walking around wherever you grew up, like in Calgary here, like, were you looking at things differently? Were you looking at playgrounds or cars or roads, or just were you looking at lines differently back then?
Yeah, so one thing like I talk about in a lot of my work is a lot of like the patterns and colors and like shapes that I use are often picked from like architecture, or I look at a lot of signage, or like I look at a lot of like brickwork, or like patterns in like on the ground, or like even like the patterns you see on like a manhole, or kind of any kind of work that involves, trying to think of some other things. I think architecture and like infrastructure the most, because especially once I traveled, that's when it like I really started like looking at like almost everything, because there's like a million ways to build a brick wall, for example, and then there's a million different kinds of bricks, and then there's guys that make the brick wall they just stack the bricks. Then there's some guys that build it they somehow make a circle of the bricks in the middle of the wall, and then do another circle. So then I started getting really interested, and I started noticing those things more and more as I studied, because then those things would catch my eye, whereas before a blank wall would just be a blank wall. So
and like when you're young, like teenager, are you looking at it differently? Are you looking at the world in a different light, like being like always drawing and always like messing around? Are you looking at things differently then, or is you just like a regular kid that likes to draw?
So teenager, I was kind of all over the place, because I was like really into art, and I was like really into going to like music festivals and like DJ stuff, and I always loved all like the production value of those shows. So like all like the lasers, and then you'd see like a pattern spinning on the wall, and it related to the artwork that I was interested in. So it kind of formed as like another inspiration, but it was almost like another place to go to get more inspiration, because like during the day you don't see those things, and then at nighttime you see those things. So it was kind of like getting like a double dose of what I was inspired by from different like places or times.
Do you think that like that inspirational piece, is it just, you can't really go look for it, can you? You kind of just have to be open to it, or just like put yourself in situations to find it. Like how do you approach it? How do you find inspiration? Do you just like show up in places and just keep your eyes open, or do you actually go looking for it?
That's a really good question.
And here's the thing. Here's the why behind that question. Me as like graphic designer, creative person, sometimes you get in those moments where you're scrambling to figure something out, a look, a feel, and you can't find it, but then randomly you're just in a space and you see something, you're like, oh, there it is. It just kind of appears. But I feel like, and I'm wondering how you, like, all these years of being super creative, are you worried about being inspired, or does it just happen organically for you?
I think for me, it's like I don't think there'd ever be a lack of inspiration, just because like I told you, I'm like a super visual person. Like I'm always looking at everything. And then I think one of the biggest impacts in my career was in 2017. I went to Tokyo for my first time, and as soon as I got there, it's like I landed right in Shibuya Station, so like right in like the busy the famous crosswalk, and just like all the signs and colors and patterns, and everything there is opposite of here. So it's like colors, design choices, like the sizes, the scales. So I was just I was taking photos of like I'm taking a photo of a pillar. My friend's like, "What are you doing?" And I'm like, "Well, there's a pattern on."
Do you not see this?
And then yeah. So that trip kind of set my inspiration meter off, and I took I think I took 20,000 photos that in 10 days. And I was just photoing like temples and like restaurants and like carpets inside of elevators and like you name it, I was taking photos. And then after that trip, I came back, and that's when I started to kind of realize that I can pull inspiration from like so many more things. And then there's also so many things that are like so small and then so big. Like there was some buildings I was taking photos of, and the building's like 200 stories. It has crazy metal plating all over it. And then I'm also looking at like someone's mailbox opener, and it's like 6 by 6 inches, and it's like just as fascinating. So that was somewhere that kind of reminded me that like you can find inspiration in just about anything if you look hard enough. And then that kind of that trip started my travel, because I'd never traveled international alone before. And then after that, I kind of went crazy. So now I've been everywhere. So I try to do a lot of traveling.
Yep. Just keep it fresh. Just keep your eyes.
Yeah. And just kind of go to different places in the world. And I really like to, with my color choices, I really like to document how different colors specifically are used in nature, but then also used synthetically by man in different countries and cities. Like even just an easy example is this color of street signs. Because if you look at the street signs here, and then if you go to Italy or Croatia, they use different colors for every single sign, and they're not the same red, or it's not the same blue. And then cars, and then east troughs, and just every single thing you can think of. If they've made a different decision for some reason, and there's not really there's no right or wrong, but it's just that's another fuel for my work.
So 2017, when did you graduate ACAD?
I graduated 2016 in spring.
Okay. So after you graduate, when you when that teacher kind of sees that yellow painting and educates you on what you actually did, is that rare? Is that rare that a teacher actually puts in that extra time and starts feeding you more information with what you're kind of playing with?
Well, with that one, it was kind of interesting because so most teachers are at ACAD, I had a really good experience with all the professors. I thought everyone was very useful and understanding, and they're willing to listen and work with you. But there's always the odd teacher that's kind of just kind of rude, or you don't get along with. But this one teacher that helped me, I'd had him before I think I had him in first or second year. And he's just kind of one of those more teachers that was kind of barked at people and was he was just more of an intense dude. And a lot of people were kind of
really?
we don't like his class.
Yeah.
And I always liked him because he's kind of goofy and and he's really, really smart. But that year was so strange because I made that painting at the beginning of the year, and then he told me all this info, and then I'm looking it up, and then I wasn't in any of his courses, so there was no responsibility for him to tell me any of this. And then you know, like a week would go by, I'd have a new painting or something, and he'd be like, oh, I seen you read this. And he'd be like, look up this artist. And then one day I was like, I should probably look up this guy, like like who I'm talking to. And he used to make a bunch of paintings that were in the same genre as me. So I think that's why he kind of decided to lend some knowledge. Mm-hmm. But I think the funniest thing about the whole thing was, like I told you, he was kind of like a hard teacher, and like he could be pretty mean to people, but like mean in the way that like is like constructive mean, I guess.
Yeah, like honest, constructive.
Like he'd tell someone their painting sucks, but it's like what he's saying, he's like, I know you can make it a better painting. But when the jury crit at the end of the year came, and in your last year, the jury crit, basically you have to write your full paper for the year, and you have to make a whole body of work, and then you show your whole body with your grad paper in front of the 4 professors. And like, if you pass, you pass. If you don't, you don't. So it's like pretty intimidating.
Yeah.
And he was supposed to be in the panel, and that's the only guy that's who I wanted to hear from.
You know what you'd say.
All year I've been talking to this guy, and then I like go in. I'm like nervous. I set up, and then they're like, "Oh yeah, he's absent." I was like, "What?" I was like, I need this report.
This guy gets me.
And then I literally never heard from, because I guess I think he was away writing a PhD, or it was some kind of educational purposes. But yeah, then I graduated, and then I'd never seen him again.
You haven't seen him?
No.
He has no idea what you're doing?
No, he added me on LinkedIn like a couple years ago, and his page is like, you know when you go on LinkedIn and they have just their name? Mm-hmm. And like no job history.
Everything's
nothing.
Gray. It's like,
yeah. I was like, well, like it could be him. Could just be a fraud.
No way. So, which is really a little unsettling, right? This one person that armed you.
I honestly wanted to tell him thank you. Mm-hmm. I didn't even get to.
Weird.
Yeah. And like his paintings are really cool. I guess he's an author. He has a PhD in, I think, artistic education or education through art, or like it's one of those like trippy ones, but never got to rehatch with him.
That's trippy. That whole thing is like, because as you're telling the story, it feels very like, you know, I'm painting my own picture. This kind of like movie thing where there's a kid like, you know, learning, and then this old guy is like, hey, like doing all these, like it feels very inspiring and like a real story.
Yeah, he'd come by my desk and be like, look at this. And it was almost like, who are you? Like, you're helping me win.
I got the cheat code. Crazy.
Yeah, and then I don't think he teaches at the college anymore. I'm not sure, because I know he got a PhD in something like, and I think he's originally American.
Okay.
So he could have went back to, maybe he got into some big school there, or.
Have you put much energy into tracking him down?
So a while ago, I told you he added me on LinkedIn, and then I like found I thought it would be his like website, but it just showed like his book that he wrote, and then it had like a couple thumbnails of his paintings. But you know when someone uploads a thumbnail and it's like from like Windows 98, so it was like, I clicked on it and it was like this big, and then it was like 17 pixels. And I was like, okay, nobody knows what that is.
Crazy.
And then, that's it.
Like strange.
Yeah.
Like as you're telling this, I could see how like you're like,
and like he doesn't go to any art openings. Like a lot of the professors, you'll see them at like the Esker or like the Glenbow whenever it's gonna be done. Yeah. But he's just like one of those hidden characters.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Like, I hope, well, it'll be fun to stay connected, and if that reconnection happens, it'll be funny if it.
Well, yeah. What else I was gonna say to you? I was on his website and I was looking everywhere, because usually people have like the contact me, and it says like put your name and message and CCY or whatever. No email.
Crickets.
So I'm like, can't even email this guy.
So strange. When you were going to school, were you working at all? Were you like...
Yeah, so I've always been all over the place because my mom, she used to, well, my mom and grandma, they used to always paint their own houses. And then my parents got divorced. I was pretty young. I think it was like 1999. So I was like 6 or 7. So we did like a lot of moving between my mom and my dad. So like there was always painting being done. And they're like, oh, you're the art guy.
Brush or roller? What do you want?
Yeah. So I got really good at it. And then during ACAD, I worked for a couple different painting companies. And then when I finished ACAD, I just opened up like a sole proprietor.
Oh, yeah.
Just so I can kind of so I don't have to like have a firm schedule, and then I can kind of work by myself, or I can like someone can hire me, just so I can kind of keep things a bit more. So if I get some crazy job, I can just go. So I do that, and then I do my painting.
Yep.
And then my brother has a construction company. And I used to help him with some of that stuff, but it's kind of grown out of my skill set. Because now they're doing like, they got tickets for I'm just a painter. So you need something painted, let me know.
So it's just been this like job site. You've been on job sites for a lot of years.
Yeah, and mostly if I am doing like the non-art stuff, I usually always just paint interior. Because like, obviously you've seen my paintings, like how clean. I'm the clean guy. So I like interior because I'm really good at it.
Amazing. So your travel thing, it sounds 2017. What was the, if you didn't travel leading up to that, what was the push to go?
This is such a good story.
Fuck, I'm glad I went here.
So 2017, I used to hang out with this guy, and we were really good buddies. And someone that we knew went on some like Southeast Asia trip, and like I think it was just like Thailand. And then he said to me, he's like, "Why haven't we gone on a trip and like done anything crazy?" I'm like, "Well then, why don't we?"
Because you never had, right?
Yeah, I've been to like Cuba with my mom.
Yeah, just wasn't a thing growing up. Like it just wasn't part of your family thing.
Yeah, like we never did anything like I wanted to go like I wanted to be like the 1%. Like I wanted to like go somewhere far. And then my buddy was like, "Well, we should go." And I'm like, "Okay, well, where?" And he's like, "You pick, we'll go." So now I just like opened up the internet the one day and I was looking, and then Tokyo came up and I looked at it and I'm like, I bet I'll feel like pretty 1% there. Because I wanted to go somewhere where like I don't speak the language, don't know anyone, don't know anything. Like I wanted to just drop myself somewhere and see like what it's like.
Like sink or swim. You just wanted to like figure it out.
So we booked a 2-week trip to Japan, and we landed in Tokyo, and then we went and did Nara, Osaka, Kyoto, and then back to Tokyo. And land in Tokyo starts out great. We get to Nara. Nara's like the town of like the deers. So there's like these deers that just walk around, and they've kind of like rounded their horns off so they don't like attack you. But you can like feed the deers and stuff. And there's like a really famous temple there. I think don't quote me, I think it's called Tudeji, and it's the largest wooden temple made of only wood in the world. And like you wouldn't believe how big this thing is. Like I walked up to it and I was like, oh,
seriously?
There's no nails. So we like saw that. Everything's going good on the trip, and then we get to Osaka and it's like torrential downpouring. We like find our Airbnb, we like go get some ramen. And then I was like, we were like in Osaka, there's like this famous canal, and there's like it's kind of like the youth district, and there's like club after food, like designer shopping, like they just like everything youth. And the one night I'm like, yo, we should like go out and like party and have some drinks. We find this one nightclub, and the guy looks at us and he like shows us the sign in English, and it's like $25 to get in, or $40 all you can drink. And I'm like, this sounds so dangerous. So we picked the $40 one. And then, man, it's like couple hours goes by. I think we went to like because I think there was like 3 or 4 bars that were like all connected kind of. So they're like, oh yeah, if you have the wristband, you can go across the street into that one. So we're jumping around and everything. And at one point, we were talking to these Australian guys. And I'm like, yo, where's my buddy? And then I like go and look in the other club, can't find him. Go in the other club, can't find him. I look at his phone, my phone is dead. So then I walk back to the Airbnb, and I just get hit in the face with a full can of like Pepsi or something. And my nose starts bleeding, and I'm like, what the? And then he's standing like as close as you are, and he's like, you left me. And I'm like, I'm looking for you. And then he's like, no, you left. And I'm like, dude, you threw a can of Coke at my face. And like, it was just such a mess. I'm like, let's just go back to the room. Cause like, if you get arrested in Japan, it's bad. So we go back to the room, and he's freaking out, and I'm just trying to like explain to him what happened. And then at one point he just grabs his bag, walks out the door. And this is like 6 a.m. And I'm just like, and I'm in the room's like 6 by 6 feet. And I'm like, okay, so then I like put my head down, and then like, boom, the Airbnb, like janitor knocks on the window. It's like 9 a.m. They're like, you're out. So then I go and sit down at that canal, and I like have my bags, and I like FaceTime my friend. I'm like, yo, Mark left. And they're like, what do you mean? I'm like, Mark left, man. And then I had, that day I had to take the bullet train to Kyoto. And then I had 5 days in Kyoto, and then I had 5 days in Tokyo. So then I talked to my brother and like all my friends, and they're like, well, yo, you already paid for everything. You're there. It's like, might as well just make the best of it. So I just stayed, and I had the absolute sickest time. Like, so fun. Like, the first couple of days I was super shook, because I was like, yeah, I'm pretty far away from home by myself. And then that's the one thing about Japan is like everyone's, well, I can't say everyone, but I was fortunate enough to run into like a lot of nice people, polite people, and like, yeah, I just like, I was not worried the whole time. So then in Kyoto, I went and like, I visited a bunch of temples. I can't remember the actual name of the one, but there's like the Golden Pavilion, and it's like all 24 karat gold, and it's surrounded by like a moat. It's like, it looks like it's out of like a movie. And then I kind of like gained my courage back. And then the one night I was like, well, last night I went out clubbing, it sucked. So I was like, going myself this time. And I go to this nightclub. I went there at 1 a.m. I get there, and there's like 400 people outside the club. I'm like, whoo. Then I finally get in, and I'm like kind of just standing there awkward. And these 3 guys, they're like looking at me. And the one guy just whips out his phone, types it in. He's like, and it says, are you German? And I take the phone. I'm like, put Canadian, put it back. And then he's just like, you look lonely. Drinking game? Question mark. And I was like, sure. And then we went to there's like a famous river right beside where we were hanging out. And then we just played rock, paper, scissors at the river and smoked cigarettes and drank for like 6 hours.
That was the night.
Didn't even talk. Just all like simple hand kind of. And then these guys, they walked me back to the Airbnb at 10 a.m, gave me hugs, and they were like, safe travels. And I was like, crazy how your friend will leave you on one side of the world, and then people you don't even know will walk you home.
Crazy, man.
And then I went to Tokyo by myself, and that was just like, that felt just like being like an ant in like, at like a 20,000 ant hills. And I was just like, it was just cool. I just walked around and ate food and took photos for 5 days. Like went to Yoyogi Park, went to like the art museum, galleries, all the shoe stores there are crazy. So that kind of like, that was my spark to traveling. Yep. And then after that I traveled 2018, 19, 2020, I didn't get to do anything. Yep. Then 2021, 2022, and 2023, I traveled as well.
And is it like you're making a conscious effort to travel now? Are you being very selective where you go and why you're going there?
So I usually go for like I try to find artist residency programs. Okay. I also do some traveling just for fun, but with the artist residency programs, you kind of like, they're kind of getting hard to find now because I think they're getting a little bit like maybe oversaturated is the word. Yep. But most of the ones I've done is I go to like a place that's like quite a bit of older a city and like not very popular, and they'll have kind of like a revitalization or like an artist program that kind of brings some excitement to the city. So like the first one I did was I went to Rota in Spain. And it's like a little surf town off the south tip, the very southern tip. And it's only like 2,000 people during the year, but it's like kind of like one of their Mexicos, because like they said in the summer there's like 120,000. But I went there in March, so there was like, it was just like a ghost town. So I painted a big mural there.
So how do these, sorry, I'm being ignorant, but what are these programs? So they hire you to come down and do something, or like what does that mean?
Yeah, so artist residency, that's a great question because they've changed. Well, I wouldn't say they've changed, but there's so many types. Because like, for instance, there's types that you can go to like the one I went to, they basically paid for me to stay there. They paid for like my paint. They basically paid for everything except my flight and my food. And they were like, the exchange is like, create a public piece of work for us and you get to explore the city of Rota. Cool. And then there's some that are a bit more like research based, where you'll go to like, let's say you'll be on like a farm or like a beach house somewhere, and there's no expectation of you to do anything. They just want you to like do whatever you want. Like you can meditate the whole month. But usually those ones, they're like, okay, $1,000 a month or something. Yep. And then there's the residencies that like everyone applies for that are like they're like the jackpots, where it's like the bank is hosting the residency. You get to stay in Toronto. They hang your work in the bank for the month, and you get $20,000. But it's like those ones, it's like, there's going to be 100,000 people applying. Yep. And for me at the beginning of my kind of like, because I kept seeing people doing residencies, and that's why I started applying for them, because I was like, well, I want to, after that Tokyo trip, I was like, I want to travel, but I don't want to spend $1 million. So I started looking for these programs, and I was looking for the ones that were like, kind of like off the beaten track.
A little obscure.
So I did the Spain one, and it was gorgeous. I went to Barcelona, Vienna.
What were you making when you were going to these places? Like all different installs, or what were you doing?
Mostly painting murals. Okay. And then I usually paint paintings when I go to those places and just leave them there with like friends or the gallery or something. Mm-hmm. But then the next one I did was like even smaller, and I went to this city called Graniti in Sicily, and it's in the area of Catania, but Graniti is actually like nestled on like the edge of Mount Etna. So it's like in this massive valley, and the city's like 200 years old. Like it does not look real. And there's only like, I think 900 people living there, because there's no schools, there's no hospital, there's like no gasoline. Like it's basically like the oldest town, but there's like a town 10 kilometers away that like keeps it alive. But all the old people won't leave. So they started this program called Graniti Murals. So I went there and I stayed in this lady's house. I think I think her family had owned the house for like 300 years. And I was staying in this lady's bedroom. Like she rented us the house. And then I painted this massive mural.
How big when you say massive?
This one was like 100 feet long by like 12 feet tall.
Crazy.
So it was like this retaining wall that it was dividing her property from the road.
Yep.
And it was hilarious because like the wall was like, it was like cinder block, but they're cinder blocks from like 1600. Like they were like so eroded, and like because it was so close to the Mediterranean, I think the salt must have like started to dissolve. Like they weren't like nice and smooth. So I used like 1 million gallons of paint.
It just kept on getting sucked, like get pulled into
like
it.
I'd like put the paint on it, and then they would just like it's just soak in. But this lady, her name was Maria. She was like, I think she was 87. She was like maybe this tall, like hunched over.
Just 3 feet.
And I think the coordinator's name, I think his name was Jeff. And he just said, he's like, if Maria comes out and waves at you, like go inside, or it's like disrespectful. So like every day I'd have like espresso with her, and then she'd bring espresso and wine 10 a.m. And I'd decide wine, espresso, have a cigarette or something. And then every day at lunchtime, she'd come bring me into her house, and it was a table kind of like this, and she'd put it in the middle and she'd serve me, and then she would talk in Sicilian the whole time, and I just had no clue, and I would just eat. And then the one day I'm thinking it's just another normal day, and she's like, come and eat. And I walk in, and there's like 40 people, and they're all around the table, and I'm at the head of the table, and I'm like, whoa. And everyone's looking at me like, holy, who is this? And then I sit down and I look, and like all the pasta, every day it was pasta.
And amazing, I'm sure.
Oh my God. But this one, I don't know what it was, but it was like, there was like the pasta, there was like a meat sauce, and then there was like this container, and it almost looked like fillets of fish, but like more like octopus or squid, but it was like very gray, and it was definitely not cooked, and you could tell it was really cold. Like you could see like the condensation on the container, and I looked at it, I'm like, this looks like a funky combo. And then everyone's looking at me, and she's like, you first. So like I put the noodles and I put some of the sauce, and then she just grabs the ladle of the cold stuff and just like, and I look at it and I'm like, well, they're definitely expecting me to eat all that. And then I did like the mixed bite, like,
very strategic.
Mix it all around, and it was like, she must have just taken it out of the freezer. So then that mixed with like the super hot sauce, and then the pasta, and it wasn't bad or anything. It was just such like a odd combo. And then we all ate, and then everyone talked for like probably 45 minutes, and then I was back to painting.
How long were you painting that mural? Like 100? Like it sounds like 100 feet's massive.
It would have took me like a lot less if like because of the paint and the materials.
Yeah.
But like it probably took me like 7 days. But it was also just because the temperature was kind of weird. It was like 21 and like kind of humid. But because they were so close to the Mediterranean, it's like let's say we're painting here, like at that window, like it would cut down pretty heavily. Yeah. If you see the clouds coming in from like even like it looks like it's like 100 kilometers, everyone would be like, it's gonna rain in 20 minutes, like pack up. And then as soon as the cloud went over, then it'd be sunny. Like the weather would change so quickly and oftenly. So I was kind of in and out, and then like I said, these guys were just like, they were always like the one day I was painting and I was like on the ground, and then this old man taps my shoulder and he's like, and I'm like, yo, I ate with you guys yesterday, like, and then I get dragged into this other house, and it was this guy's 40th birthday, and they just started eating, and the table was like, there was like 80 people, and they only had the men at the table, and then all the women were bringing the food and the wine and everything. And I guess I got there just when it started, and then this little boy comes running up to me, and he's like, I speak English. And I'm like, what's going on here? She's like, and he's like, it's my uncle's 40th. Look at him. And he's in the corner, just
KO.
already done. And I'm like, and he's like, we're just starting dinner. And like, yo, I've never eaten that much. They like started with proteins, and it was like 6 different types of protein. Then they brought out like vegetables. Then it was pasta. Then it was peppers. Then it was like deli meats. And then it was like, with everything, it was wine. And then they had like beer, and then they had pop. And then at the very end, it's like cake. And I'm like, just one piece of cake. And then the grandma brings me the thing, and she gave me one piece of every cake. So there was like 9 slices of cake. I was like, I'm not painting. I'm going to bed after this. Like, I painted for 20 minutes that day because I was there for 4.5 hours.
When you these experiences are very unique, right? Like top to bottom.
Oh yeah.
Do they happen more often than not? Like, do you think you're just being thoughtful where you're going, right? You're putting yourself in these unique situations. Like something different's going to happen there. Like, do you think about these things, or is it just like your move to go to these quiet places?
I don't know. I think maybe just because me being an artist and like standing out and a lot of the places I have gone to do my art are places that, like, for one, I do stand out, and then 2, they're like an artist. Well, like, why would you come and do art here? And then 3, it's like, I think I might just have like a good luck with people with friendly people.
Do you feel that? Like, do you feel that in general? Like when you move, obviously just being in Calgary, meeting different people and traveling, obviously you feel like there's that magnet?
Yeah. I have every single place I've gone, I've like either I've met people for sure, but I've stayed at people's houses. Like, I have all their numbers on WhatsApp. I talk to them all the time. Like, yeah, I don't know. It always ends up, I guess the best way I can describe it to you is every time I go on a trip, I always end up eating at someone's dinner table with their family. And I'm like, I don't think this happens to just anyone.
It's a totally different experience, right?
Yeah, because some people go on a trip and they just stay in the hotel. They go take a couple photos of the stuff, go to the nice restaurant, and then they're back on the plane.
Do you feel like it's big? Obviously art's the big connection, but if you're putting you're doing a mural somewhere in a public place, like, you're in their community, right? You're adding to their community. I wonder if that's like part of that energy. Like, they're looking at you like you're doing something positive for them, so they're more willing to kind of bring you into their world.
Well, that was like, I did Guadalajara last year in January, and I painted another, like, one of those really long rectangular walls, and it was on this.
Sorry, this is just like fascinating to me. Do they, when you get there, before you get there, do they show you what they want you to do, or how does that work?
So usually my process is like, especially with my work, because I have a lot of, like, there's some patterns people are like, this, I can't look at this. Some people they like the really chill ones. I usually always I'll get them to take a photo or I'll get blueprint prints or a render.
Yep.
And then I'll Photoshop a bunch of stuff.
Gotcha.
To kind of give them an idea.
So you know the space you're going to go work with before you get there.
Yeah.
Okay.
And just so the client's kind of like aware of what I'm doing, and then everyone's kind of on the same page. But yeah, this one in Mexico, because in Mexico, the schooling system I can't remember if I'm correct, but most people in Mexico are Catholic, but the Catholic schools that aren't private are pretty dangerous. So there's a lot of private Catholic schools, and then university is paid for by the government, but a lot of people don't end up making it because it's hard for them to get enough money to just eat and live and go to university.
Mm-hmm.
So this one private school that was by the Residency, they have this massive white wall around it, so none of the other students or kids are like infiltrating. Because it looked like a really nice school too. But I was painting this wall, and like they picked the wall mainly because in the morning it had all these palm trees along it. So like a lot of people would sleep against the wall and like throw their garbage. So I cleaned it all up and started painting. And all these old people that usually probably just waiting for their kids, but they were like so pumped that I was painting this wall. And they were just saying basic Spanish stuff and like, magnifique or magnifico or, and like, they were just like very thankful that I was like changing the environment or like helping make it more friendly. And yeah, it's a lot of people like it. And then I guess like the funniest thing about public art is like the grandmas are those are the superheroes. Then the grandpas are always like, they put their hands behind their back and they're like, what are you doing? This is the response I get every time. What are you doing? And then there's always that one artist guy that comes by that like looks like a super rich like fashionista artist guy, and they're like, you should be in New York. And I'm like, okay, you guys, I'll just write these down.
Noted.
But yeah, during public art, you always get like the funniest interactions. But the best though is like the older ladies and the kids. The kids always love it.
When you finish these pieces, what does it feel like when you like step back, look at it, and then walk away and fly home? Like, what is that feeling like when you complete something?
For the ones for traveling, it's I don't know. It gives me such a weird experience because for me, especially too, whenever I'm painting a big project, like it's hard to compare it to anything else. But when I'm painting something and I spend so many hours looking at it, or like even like for a good example, like in my studio, like if I'm working on like a painting like that's on the wall, and I'm working on that all day or for a couple of days, and I finally finish it, and I'm like, okay, yeah, it's good, it's done. I don't really I'm not like ecstatic. I'm like kind of just like, you know what, it's done. I take a photo and then I won't look at it. Then I'll drive home, or like I'll wake up the next day, I open my phone and look at it, and then I look at it and I'm like, yeah, that's nice. Cause like my eyes have kind of had like a break. It's kind of like if you listen to your favorite song, like let's say a new song comes out, it's your favorite song. You listen to it like 30 times in a row for 7 days straight. Well, that one day you put on the song, you're like, it's just like, it doesn't give you that same kick. But then 3 months later it comes on shuffle and you're like, whew, that is a good song. Yeah. That's what those projects do for me. And then I'll be on my website, or like something will pop up in a memory and I'll be like, oh, remember when you were in like Croatia painting this? And I'm like, oh yeah, I guess I was.
Is it almost like, well, that was me?
Yeah, sometimes I forget, like, especially like when in some years when so many things happen. Yeah. And some projects, like, I think some projects you don't like, because so much happens when you do like a public art project that I think sometimes you forget like the finished feeling isn't really like the biggest feeling, because there's so much stuff put into it. So like when you're done, you're pretty tired. Yeah. So there's not really like a victory cheer. The victory cheer's kind of like a month later. Yeah. You like see photos, or you see people in front of it, or someone's like, hey, I saw your work in Colombia. That was a crazy project. Then you kind of like pat yourself on the back.
Do you feel like it's like to do these projects is like it takes a lot of energy and emotion? Like, is it draining? Like, is it draining when you're done? You're just like, okay, I need to like step away and recharge, and that's why you're feeling these when people take a picture and like, hey man, this is crazy, and you're like, oh yeah, that is crazy.
I don't know. That's another good question. And me and my buddy Alex Kwong, he's another artist in town.
Okay.
Me and him had a lot of talking about that because I don't know if it's similar for a lot of people, but when I first started painting murals and like big walls, it is intimidating because it's like a bigger surface, and like you want to get it done, you want to do it like efficiently, you want people to be like, oh yeah, like he didn't spend 3 years painting this 8 by 8 foot, and then there's like a lot of stresses behind those kind of projects, and then like if materials go wrong, or like if you buy the wrong colors, or maybe you can't take them back, it's expensive, like there's so many things that can like go wrong, but I've kind of gotten to this mindset with public art painting, that to just like not let anything bother me, and to like not get frustrated, or not like, because like I see a lot, and like me and Alex talk, because me and Alex started painting together, like we've been applying for a lot of projects and stuff.
Cool.
We're trying to get some like really big collaborations, and this summer we painted a wall, and it was a massive, it was like, I think it was 80 by 25 feet, and we painted it in like 2 days. And then someone asked us like, oh, that must have been a lot of work, like aren't you guys tired? And we were just like, I don't think I'd even sweat or spent any energy. I'm like, if anything, I spent more time laughing and having fun. And I think that's like if you can tap into that kind of approach, then it's not hard work anymore. Yeah. And I don't think, I guess like art's different for everyone, but for me, I don't think art should be like hard work in that sense where you're like drained and like beaten up. Yeah. Maybe if you're making a piece that's like very emotional and like that, from that kind of, but like, I guess where I'm speaking about is like when people like overwork themselves, I'm like, then that almost kind of takes away from the art piece. It's like if someone were to make a song and you're just forcing it and trying to make it better and better and better. By the end of it, it's like you've almost made it worse, because it's not, you're like overworking it. So I try to approach with like a very easygoing, laid back drive. Turtle instead of rabbit. And
then the idea of working with somebody now, or off and on, an interesting experiment, just to like vibe with somebody on the, artistically, that.
Yeah. So me and Alex, we've done a couple works together, and then we only became friends a couple years ago through some mutual friends. And me and him, we are very different, but we are like kind of alike. But he's also taught me a lot about like kind of just like relaxing and just like it doesn't have to be, nothing has to be as serious as you make it. Like if something really bad happens, you getting all worked up that's not gonna put the bolt on the, it's not gonna fix the drill. So I take a lot of things that he's told me, I consider it quite a lot. And then I know he's also taken a lot of stuff from me, from just like, because I'm like very positive and optimistic about my practice. Like I don't like to, like if I don't get a project, I don't like freak out. I just like, well, maybe the project's better for someone else. Yeah. Like, so I think it really depends. And I think as an artist, you do have to be very careful and mindful to your brain, because your brain is like your engine. So if your engine breaks down, then you're not gonna be making any art.
What do you do for that? Besides the approach of, being optimistic and positive, what else do you do? I feel like music's a thing for you.
I listen to a lot of music.
Yeah.
And I'm kind of all over the place with music, because like I told you, I used to go to a lot of like party stuff and like festivals. And I still like that music, but it was like such a stage of my, it was just such a stage in my life that I almost just associate it now with like strictly partying kind of, or at least most of that kind of music. I can sit down and chill and listen to like house music. Yep. But like dubstep or techno or any of those like hardcore kind of heavier stuff, I can't really. I just associate that with like I'm not doing art stuff. But with art, like I really like listening to like hip hop, like lo-fi. What else do I listen to?
Just keeps your head kind of in the right spot to do your thing.
Yeah, kind of music that's more melodic and like and like a lot of hip hop that's kind of like a bit more like positive and like less like, because there's so much like commercial hip hop now that they just talk about money, and then there's a lot of that is like gangster hip hop. They just talk about like cars and cash. So like I try to find things that are a bit more relatable. Yep. And I guess one I completely forgot is I love listening to disco. Cool. Disco is like a really good one for me, especially for the studio, because it like it's like energizing, kind of keeps me on my feet, keeps me in a good mood. And then yeah, I discovered lo-fi music. It must have been like 4 or 5 years ago. I can't even remember where. I think I was in a lounge somewhere or something, but it was just like super lo-fi. They had like butterfly effect in the background, like it was almost like a daydream song. And I was like, this is like really nice. Like this would be good to paint to. And like so like usually in the morning, if I go to the studio, I like put on lo-fi, like get all ready, have coffee. And then as the day progresses, I'll put on like house music or techno, or like maybe some types of hip hop but yeah, music is a big drive of like just like picking my mood.
Yeah, for sure. Do you how do you balance the work now? Like, do you look at the studio work as like this strict schedule, or do you have to be inspired to start getting into the studio, or is it project by project? Like, how do you kind of map your time against creating?
Oh man,
or is it just all over the map?
I'm like, so like I'll have projects that I'm like let's say I have a commission and it's due in like next Friday. Yeah. I'll be like adamant at like going in and make sure it's done way before. But then even like the other week, I had nothing due, no plans, no, like I could have just sat in bed all week, but every day I went to the studio at 7 a.m. and was just painting.
Which is important, right? Like, just to have the routine of like, this is work.
Well, I almost like guilt myself sometimes, because if I'm just like doing nothing, I'm like, well, I could be painting, and it's like something really good could happen instead of me just like not painting. Yeah. But then me and Alex, we also had another good chat about like, because you know how sometimes people force themselves to create. They're like, oh, like I haven't made something in a while, I should be making. Or like, oh, like I need to like find this, or I need to discover this. Sometimes when you force a journey is when like is the worst time to take one. So then I've also been focusing on a lot of days where it's like, if my brain is like, I do not want to paint today, then like I try to make a really big effort not to. Be like, still be productive, but like don't go and do something that your brain is like saying like, do not do this. Cause then it's like, then it's already influencing, like it's not the right influence.
Yeah. That energy that's going into it is not gonna, it's not gonna give you what you want.
Yeah. Paintings, it's all over the place.
It's a mind thing. Do you, when you were coming out of school, was this on your radar to do this full time? To do, public installations, to do commissions? Did you have an idea of what you're going to do when you were coming out of school?
I literally had like no plan.
And was that intimidating or nerve-wracking?
It's such a...
Dude, and
because like I was kind of when I went to art school and finished art school, I was kind of in that like angst, like I was kind of just like against. I wasn't angry, but I was like kind of like, I was like, how the hell does this work? Like, you just finish art school and then they're basically just like, The first years are coming.
Yeah,
now.
Next.
And then for me, I got like the super blessing of a lifetime because in my studio, I told you there's like the 10 people in a studio. This girl beside me, her name's Shyla Wolf. She was a friend of mine, and she was interning at the Herringer Kiss Gallery. And one day she just said to me, she said, "Hey, I really like your work. Can we sit down and talk about it?" So she sat down at my desk. I kind of told her what I'm working on and researching. And she's like, "Oh, well, you should bring a couple of these paintings down to Herringer Kiss. I think Deborah would like to talk to you." And at that point, I didn't even know who Deborah was. But I just knew it was the gallery. So I was like, well, yeah, I'll bring my work to a gallery. So I go there and I meet Deborah, and her plan, like, she just had like a corner in the back of the gallery. And she just wanted to showcase a student's work as a, what you call it, an incubator space, just to kind of like show an up and coming student. So she picked me. I brought her the painting. She hung it up. And this had to be like May or June. And then it must have been July. She called me and she's like, "Hey, Rhys, can you come down to the gallery?" So I go down to the gallery, and the whole gallery was empty. And she's like, "Yeah, like, so the artist that I was supposed to have a solo show for this upcoming month had an emergency and had to cancel." And she looked at me and she's like, "Do you want to have a show?" And I was just, I was like, "Yeah, sure."
What does that mean?
And then she's like, "I'm assuming you have enough work because you just finished school, like 5 years of paintings in my room." I'm like, "Yeah, I have a couple paintings." So then I brought them all down and hung them up and everything. Had the show, and I was super nervous too, because like,
This like 2016, 17?
yeah, summer 2016.
Ish, yeah, okay.
And I was super nervous because like a lot of my professors said they were going to come, obviously colleagues. And then I also just thought about like how friends might perceive it, and like how some people might get a little bit like angry, or a little bit like, yeah, just all those kind of mixed emotions when things happen really quickly. And the show went really well. And then went home that night, celebrated with all my friends and everything. And then like a week later, Deborah, she basically just like whipped up a contract and was like, "Do you want to work with me?" And then that was kind of like the birth of my career.
Amazing. Unexpected.
Yeah.
Because like lost, like, not, I don't want to put words in your mouth, but like lost soul coming out of school? Like didn't know what you could do, like what was even possible?
Like I did not have a single goal, or like I did not have a plan. Like the day I finished, I was just like, I'm just going to go party this summer because that's
what you do.
I don't have a job. I was probably going to like paint some houses or something, you know? Yeah. But, and then during that time, I did start painting murals, because in 2011, when I was at ACAD, there was like a couple guys that would paint walls in Kensington, just like graffiti guys. And I'd asked them if I could come and like paint with them, because I noticed they'd paint on the weekends, like Saturdays or Sundays. And I painted with them a couple times and stuff, but the graffiti guys always kind of like make fun of art school guys. That's kind of like, that's just like,
that's the hierarchy of thing. Yeah, yeah.
So like I would go there and like, you know, I'd like hear the jabs, and like they're all older than me. And like, I just didn't really care. I just wanted to paint the wall. But then as years happened, and then I just kept painting. I still know a lot of these guys, but it was just kind of funny to see like the change of events. Cause like they would like knock abstract painting. And then I was always kind of like, well, cool, man. Like I'm not knocking your graffiti or anything, but
What are we doing here?
yeah, like we're both painting a wall in an alley. Like, I don't think we need to fight about it.
Crazy.
And then, yeah, as soon as I got with Deborah, it kind of put a little bit of like a candle under my bottom to fucking just start working. And then I started applying for. I had like a small show at Art Commons. I had a small show at like the Jubilee. I kind of just started like applying myself, and then I painted Bump. Yeah. I painted the first year of, I don't know if it was the first year of Bump, but it was 2018. Okay. So then I got into like the Mural Festival stuff. And then the year of Bump is when I went to Spain and Sicily. And then, yeah, and then lots of private projects. Then I've done a number of projects with the Telespark Science Center. And then, yeah, and then just lots of travels, man. 2019, I did a residency in Kuala Lumpur. And then 2020, I was supposed to go on a trip, but...
Yep, something happened.
And then 2021, I did Croatia, Bosnia, and Slovenia, which was super cool. And then just this last year, I did Guadalajara, and then I did another residency in Kuala Lumpur in the summer.
Amazing. Do you have an idea where this is all going?
Where this is all going? I don't know. That's a pretty thick question.
Do you think do you have a focus point? Are you focusing on? Are you going to keep everything going? The residencies, the commissions, the gallery. Like, are you going to keep it all kind of moving in a direction, or is there something that's kind of you want to scratch?
I think it's definitely I think it's like, I don't know if this is the right word, emulating. Like everything's been growing at such a nice, comfortable rate that I don't really see the need to take away or interfere with any of the processes right now. And like, I'm always adding new things. Like, I'm working on some sculptures right now, which like I just kind of started doing last year. And then I've been focusing on collaboration a lot more in the last couple years. Yep. And then, yeah, I think the biggest thing is just like, I'm just like always creating, and I'm always eager to like, if I don't have like a big wall project, I'm in the studio. If I don't have a painting, I'm gonna work on a sculpture, or I'm on the computer applying for residencies and travel. And then like, I think there's just so many avenues now that I can kind of keep myself busy, even if there's not technically something to do. Yep. But
it's a great spot.
The end goal right now is just to I think I don't know what my end goal, but I guess what I'd like to see in the next while is I want to obviously see more of the world, and I do want to like create some much larger works on buildings, like apartments, like size style,
like 20 floors, like 200 feet kind of thing.
Yeah, like a really big one. Yep. And then I'm really determined to get more into public art sculpture.
I've seen some of the stuff you're
working. And like sculpture, like they like the big, huge metal sculptures that are like kind of usually at like museums, or like stuff that's a bit more conceptual, and like they kind of have a more intellectual story to them. Because I just find those artworks to be like a bit more like that works very monumental. Like when you go into a museum and there's like a massive 20-foot steel thing, and it like does something with sound and your vision, and there's like science and stuff. I look at that and I'm like, that's something that I would like to be known for one of those one day.
Cool. This has been really cool, man. I love like not knowing anything about you except how cool your art is. And then you and I get to bullshit for a duration of time to actually hear the story. So really cool, man.
Yeah, thank you, man.
I end the show with one question.
Okay.
When I say Calgary, where's your head go?
When you say Calgary, where does my head go? My head goes to the old Republic.
No way.
Yeah.
Oh, just down the street.
Yeah.
No way. That was your...
I spent a lot of time there when I was a young guy. And it was just like it was one of those places where it didn't, like, when it had all like the neon lights and like, I don't know, specifically I remember winter when everyone's like outside and it's -40 and you're trying to get in. But I don't know. That's one spot of the city that I always think about.
Amazing.
Yeah.
So here's my Republic story. This might twist your mind up. 1994, I was going to the Republic drinking $1.80 doubles on a Thursday night. That was their thing. So $1.80 doubles from like open till 8 o'clock or something. So you can picture what happens on a Thursday night at the Republic.
Yeah.
So
that was the spot.
You say Republic, I'm like, yeah, there it is. Dude, thanks for taking the time.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, man, I can't wait to watch what you do. I feel like when you do accomplish that giant thing in some museum, it's going to be really cool because, man, I feel like you got something special. So thanks for this.
Thanks, man. I appreciate it.